Okay, this whole blog, Bad Asian Daughter, started with this premise of what I'm not supposed to say, and how long that list was when I first did the writing exercise of I'm not supposed to say or I'm not supposed to write. And I realized that this could last a lifetime if I really practice this unearthing process or archaeology, digging up what it is that I'm not supposed to say. And what I realized is that if I want to have material out there that I want to hear and to read, I need to create it, or I need to find it. But it's the things that I really want to say or that I want to be said need to be said by me. Or I need to at least take the chance to say them, or they'll go unsaid. So right now what I'm not supposed to say is how I feel one of the big barriers to my moving forward with this next particular step in my life, the step I don't want to take, which is sort of, I feel, taking a step back in the women's movement as I was taught about the women's movement. And it's really interesting because there's a few women, very small number of women, who shaped my overall image of what a woman should be, or at least the people I should look up to, respect, admire, etc. And those women were solitary figures. They didn't need men. They took pride in not needing men. They were financially self-sustaining, in many cases more financially productive than the men in their lives, if they had men in their lives. And just so this very powerful, almost masculine quality to the women. They wore suits, they wore high heels, they were making money in a business sense. And that's really the aspects of their lives that were emphasized to me. And when I try to go into my consciousness and find images of how women in my life, women that I was exposed to in a kind of mentoring capacity, appreciated the relationships that they had, the intimate relationships, whether it's partner, boyfriend, husband, mate, or frankly, their children. Those images are very much blurry and far in the background compared to these images of power and solitude. And I never questioned them until this particular moment in my life, when I'm finding that as part of my own journey into self-care and discovering my own creativity, that I know my creativity is a solitary process in terms of doing the actual work and doing the practices of linking my mind to my body and to my spirit, and creating my own experience of every breath. And that there's a solitude in that, but it's not a loneliness. For the first time, there's not a loneliness in that for me. But I'm also finding that in giving myself that creative space, which feels actually like surrender and receptivity and just a lot of opening and gentleness, quote, femininity, or feminine energy. Not wearing a high-heeled shoe, makeup, doing my hair, wearing suits. None of that is associated with these images of femininity, so that's why I put it in quotes. So doing all of that has actually brought me a greater experience of kind of the ability to stand in my own space in the presence of people who are different from me, including men. I'm glad that men are different. I realize that when I was a more masculinized power version of me as a woman, meaning that I was driving hard at work, I was, rewarded for my sense of order and organization and logic and planning and hard line kind of business tactics. I was seeking a softer presence in my life through men, and therefore I was mostly dissatisfied with the men I did meet because they were men. Ultimately, at the end of the day, or those kind of softer, feminized men were looking for the masculinized version of me, which I found that over time in a relationship, that wasn't the me that I wanted to be at home or in my downtime, and that I was putting on these faces and creating relationships through masks. And that's what created a lot of the lack of fulfillment and satisfaction in my personal relationships, because I wasn't aware of how strong the mask was that I had in order to achieve the success in the work world, in the types of work that I was doing, in the way I conducted myself in those work settings. So all of this is so taboo because I'm supposed to be so grateful for, the generation of women that paved the way for me to believe that anything was possible and to compete against men as equals in the workplace. And now I realize that actually my soul, the true self, my essential self, doesn't have any interest in competing really with anyone in terms of that. I mean, I have enough work to do just becoming more open and compassionate in myself with the people that come into my life, and that's enough for me. And this whole idea of standing for something and fulfilling some lineage of who knows how many hundreds or thousands of years of ancestors who, quote, suffered through many different harsh circumstances at different points in time. It's just including the women's movement, including the feminists in this country, it's just too much. And that whole kind of crusader mentality that I've carried around, and I still have, that's still default tendency for me, is part of the weight that I want to drop. It's like, you know what? The fact that I am enjoying my life and I'm able to enjoy it in a experience peace and bring that peace into relationships that are in my life right now, not things that I'm aspiring to, finding the better this or that. That's enough. Because I realize if I make a list of the things that I haven't experienced in my life, it's being around people who are at peace. I have been surrounded by people who have at least some basal level of restlessness and dissatisfaction and sort of dis-ease with their station in life, and have wanted to be more than they are, and have not in a just a growth and development way, but in a I am not enough, lack mentality kind of way. And so I being a very actually receptive person, have absorbed a lot of that energy and have become a projection of a lot of those people's aspirations, expectations, and goals for me, which ultimately ran its course and left me dry, a tapped source. And now it's just, I feel that at this point in my life, there's this deep, deep, invisible lesson going on about replenishing the well and what it really looks like to do that. And what I am being asked as a soul to be willing to do is represents the depth of where we have to be willing to go if that's what life asks us to do, to heal and to achieve the inner state that we are trying to achieve by proxy through all of these other external manifestations, like owning a piece of hand-painted furniture, living in a certain zip code, having a certain following. Those, I now realize my life is asking me to believe, the right level of those things comes from first achieving and practicing and experiencing the inner state that you're really wanting, or you believe you're going to have when you achieve those external things. So starting inside, can I actually experience that peace and then create the external life that matches? And I've been, frankly, given a lot of external things to work with without having a lot of experience and insight into trusting my own internal feeling. And I've had all these external crutches, I would say, or masks that very easily could demonstrate superiority or achievement or accomplishment. And it flashed through my mind the other day that just accomplishing things does not give you a sense of accomplishment. So having a long list of accomplishments that other people view as accomplishments does not equal that internal sense of accomplishment in terms of growth, development, purpose, connection, peace. So for me, it's sort of asking life all the time, what am I being asked to learn right now? Not what have I learned 20 years ago, because that's great, because that's what I needed to learn at that time. And so then coming up to the present moment based on all of that experience and where I'm being taken, what is it now? And becoming current with that sometimes involves, I'm finding often involves letting go, a lot of letting go. That it's not about constant accumulation, it's learning how to let go also. And that's where I have, less practice, especially in the realm of physical things. And you'd think that after my closet cleanup and my leaving my office that this would be easier. And it is. I think I can look back at those examples at least and say I did those things, but when it comes down to this particular moment, it's still, you encounter what you encounter, whether it's that fear or resistance or whatever it is, some memory in the old consciousness of the brain, some lesson from the past is coming up, taking center stage and saying, whoa, this looks too much like that. And I have to keep practicing and remembering that I've done these things recently and I can do this next one. It's not just as simple as talking myself into it. It's this combination of feeling the resistance, working with the resistance, allowing it, and then taking the actions like I'm going to do after I'm done with this video, which is, and how did I get back onto the subject of things? It's interesting. I started with being a woman. So this comes down to, okay, I'm giving up some of my possessions, like couches and pieces of furniture, just because I don't want to move with them anymore, and where I feel like I will live next, I don't need all this furniture. And I also have this feeling that there's something else way beyond it that I can't even see right now, but that I absolutely have to step through this path to be prepared for whatever that is. And it's greater abundance, greater freedom, greater expression, and trust. So it comes back to this woman thing, because I just assume that, this is the way it is, this is my stuff, and wherever I went wherever I go next, I'm just going to have all this stuff with me. That's what I assumed for so long. And then when I've come into clear vision of it, it's like, really? Do I really need this stuff right now? So, anyway, that's what I'm not supposed to say today. And the list goes on, but that's all for now.